Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through Chow and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning and welcome to Encounter. Happy Easter, or Alleluia, Christ is risen. I don't know how you greet each other as you wake up this morning, but these are things that you'll hear at church. It's an important day for those of us that are Christian. And it's a day where we come together and we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. It's an important day, but also when we start looking through the other days that kind of, from other faiths that kind of surround this day for us, we find that there are other holidays that are a part of this celebration. Passover comes to mind. So as we discuss this issue and about this day and the celebration of Easter and the celebration of Passover, I have a couple of ministers with me. One is Douglas Taugher. He is the pastor at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Binghamton. Welcome back to Encounter, Douglas. I know we've done this before. It's been a while.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Joe.
Thanks for coming on, Douglas. And then the Reverend Tim Taugher, another not stranger to Encounter, but it's been a while since you've been on.
Yes, thank you.
From St. Francis of Assisi Parish in Hillcrest. Welcome to Encounter.
Thank you.
So, this is a big day, a celebration, right? So, let's frame it for people. Why do we celebrate Easter? What is really important about Easter there, Tim?
Well, we've been preparing for it for 40 days with the Lenten season before, and culminates with Holy Week. Then that transitions to what we call the Triduum in our Catholic tradition, with Holy Thursday through Easter Sunday. So it is a pivotal moment, central to our Christian faith. And
it really follows the life of Jesus through that, right? So we end up with Holy Thursday. For those of us that are of Protestant persuasion, is really, an important day for Catholic Church, right?
Sure. Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and the main liturgy in the Catholic tradition is the Easter Vigil.
Right. So on Holy Thursday, what do we celebrate, Douglas? Do you know?
Well, it's the Last Supper, the meal, the communion. Foot washing, if you go that direction.
Yeah, so it's really one of those days where we, through that course of that week, we start on Palm Sunday, and then we walk with Jesus through the entire week, through the crucifixion on Friday, which is Good Friday, and through Holy Saturday for you all, especially through the service that starts in darkness and ends in light. It's pretty profound kind of theology that goes along with that, right? So
sure. What
are some of the themes that kind of emerge?
I just think, there's a book I read some years ago by Marcus Borg and Dominic Grosson called The Last Days, and it is just a whole different way to look at Holy Week and these holy days. With Palm Sunday, never thought of it before that there were two demonstrations that day.
Right.
Jesus coming in on the donkey, Pilate on the other end of Jerusalem coming in with military might. So you have this contrast of forces, one with the kingdom of Caesar, the other the kingdom of God. So it culminates there.
One coming in on a horse, the other one coming in on a donkey.
Donkey, right.
Yeah, so it's one's a parody of the other one. It's almost like street
theater.
Street theater, exactly. So you have you have the emperor who has no clothes, right? So it's kind of an interesting play on those two things. So, but Douglas, there are other holidays that kind of come into play at this time of year as well, right?
Yeah. So as a Unitarian Universalist, I have both the challenge and the opportunity, as we say, to experience the variety. I know that a lot of folks are familiar that Unitarian Universalism came up out of Christianity, so there's a lot of connection and honoring and recognition of the Christian holidays when Unitarian Universalists get together and do things. So we will be celebrating Easter, but we also recognize the variety of other holidays around us because Unitarian Universalism has broadened to encompass multiple paths. So there are folks in my congregation who will be honoring Passover in particular. There are folks in the congregation who just recently recognized the culmination of Ramadan with a couple of weeks back. And so various, looking forward to the equinox and the celebrations of the earth and things like that. So we have a variety of celebrations that happen around spring and around this season of rebirth and renewal and themes of freedom and transformation are threaded through multiple holidays at this time, of which Easter is certainly perhaps so well recognized,
Right.
but also Passover. I think those two in our current culture are the ones that most people would recognize.
And
Yeah.
for us, that those themes come out very, very strongly through Christianity, right?
Sure, definitely. And it's like Douglas was saying, you know, it's just one of those unique times in the calendar that Passover, Holy Week are overlapping, you know, and as I said, Iftar and Ramadan just ended a while back ago. So there was this close connection to all these major religious holidays and religious traditions.
Because, you know, we do talk about the spring as a time of rebirth, and it kind of makes Lent, which means spring, come to life as well for those of us that are celebrating. It's kind of like a spring cleaning of the soul, leading up to Easter. And so Easter comes and we roll away the. If we had our Orthodox friends with us, they actually physically roll a boulder from the tomb on Easter Sunday, and that's the day where you walk into church and you see an empty tomb at the front of the front of the service. So or the sanctuary. Sorry. So for this is we see it as a transition from death into life, as a moment of not only physical death, but also the things that bind us spiritually, that bind us politically, that bind us culturally, and we try to see them as liberation, right? So how does that theme kind of get played out? Like when you're celebrating it on Sunday, today, when we're celebrating Easter, how does that come out in your service?
Well, one thing I try to do in my personal way of liturgical celebrations and everything else about this time is not to see this as a past event. It is a past event, but how the events of Holy Week, Easter, are still impactful today. It's a living reality. It's not just a past reality. It's a living reality. And to get that across to people and to also bring that into the celebrations of these days in Easter. So it's not, I just think that's important, the way I approach it liturgically and pastorally in our parish.
And Douglas, I mean, those themes resonate with you as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. So for Unitarian Universalists, there's absolutely arguments about the nature of Jesus and what happened at the resurrection. And I think the theme of rebirth and resurrection and liberation in particular is the way in which we can approach that without having to have an argument about what literally happened. Because as Tim said, we also look at this as not a historic fact that did or didn't happen. Like, let's not get lost in that argument. Instead, to look at this is an opening for us to realize how life works and who we are and how we can engage with the universe and with the movement of love and the ways in which renewal and life more abundant.
And Tim, even though we do believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus, the body,
Right.
the body being risen. I know that you brought up Marcus Borg and Dominic Crossan, and they talk a little bit about post-critical naivete, which basically means, well, it may not have happened, or it may have happened, but we still have to deal with the fact of what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, as we talk this through, we do have a convergence between what it means and how it gets communicated to the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah.
And so we have Jesus, who's been put into the tomb. I've often heard, one of my favorite preachers is a guy named Tony Campolo, and he talks about it being Friday and Sunday's coming, that whole thing. But while I think Sunday is important, I think most of us live in Saturday, don't we? Because we're living between the death and the resurrection. We don't know what's going to happen, but we have to try to make sense of this whole thing somewhere in the middle between the two of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for people that are sitting there going, oh, come on, don't talk about resurrection in that kind of a way. They got that cynical kind of quality going on. What is the message that we want to get to people on this day, like that, for people that are caught in Saturday? What is the message for them?
I would say, I think in the time we're living in right now, with so many things taking place nationally and internationally, is hope. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that's, I've been receiving something through the Lenten season from the Jesuits about this whole sense of hope, a strange hope, struggle for hope. And I think this is the reality we're living in, is how do we live with that hope? And we could say that Holy Saturday feeling is that sense of remaining hopeful,
Mm-hmm.
and deepening that hope in our lives.
And hope is an answer to cynicism at that point, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Douglas?
and I would say that there's a sense in today's society in how we do religious practice that there's an inevitability, that Passover happens every year in this way, or the Passion unfolds, and of course there's going to be the Sunday of Easter. It's coming. Spring happens on the calendar every year. You can't stop it. But I think what we miss when we stop with it right there is that we need to enact it.
Right.
And I think that's the secret of how to move out of just a discussion and into, how does this impact my life? How does this impact what's going on in the world around me?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I step forward? How do I help move that stone? How do I put a foot forward so that the sea parts? Like, what's my piece of the ritual so that we can enact this transformation, enact the liberation that we're called into?
Yeah.
I think that's one reason we did this interfaith statement, in a sense, for how are these days speaking to us today in our reality, we thought it was important not to let these days go by and not give that attention, so I thought, and we thought that it's important to address that.
So my guests today are Tim Taugher, who is the pastor at St. Francis of Assisi Parish, and the Reverend Douglas Taylor, who is a pastor at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Binghamton. And we've been talking about Easter and its Easter and Passover and other high holy days that kind of converge on this moment. And now we're shifting into talking a little bit about what some of the local faiths are trying to put together as far as a statement on immigration and its and how it's being impacted today. And so we're going from the theology in a way into how it's enacted or how it's understood. So what did you all do, Douglas, in order to come up with this statement?
Well, so we'll start with there's a group of us who are interfaith who have been coming together and meeting and building together a coalition of folks across different traditions. There had been a group that was meeting for a long time, Children of Abraham, which featured the three monotheistic traditions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And what we're working on now is called Interfaith Broome County. We're trying to stretch that to recognize the Muslim and Buddhist and Jewish and Christian, pagan, Hindu, Sikh. We have folks in our community of Broome County that aren't only Christian and Jewish and Muslim. And so we're trying to expand our practice of how we interact and how we have these dialogues. So we've had a couple of activities over the past year and a half, 2 years, where we've been actively pulling ourselves together and giving ourselves a shape. And so we've had several events of that nature. And so that's sort of a starting point.
One of my favorite posters, I have it hanging in my office, but it has the golden rule. And we find that the golden rule, which is, do unto others as they would have you do unto them, and the negative of it, which don't do harm to anyone, or don't treat anyone that way you wouldn't want to be treated, that whole thing. So, but you find that when you look at that list through from all of the faith traditions that you just mentioned, Douglas, they all kind of have their own statement about the golden rule. The golden rule kind of is a transcendent statement, and oftentimes what we see, at least exemplified for ourselves, is the differences between all of them, and then that gets exacerbated by saying they're wrong, we're right, and all sorts of other things. But it seems like what you're looking for is a commonality, that the places where they have agreement, maybe exploring some of the differences, but not to the exclusion of those commonalities, and seeing how they all converge, right?
Well, and I would say one of the key pieces, and it leads into the statement that Tim and I are wanting to share, is this perspective on how do you treat somebody who isn't in your group.
All right.
And so how do you treat the other? How do you treat your neighbor?
Right.
Is a question that all of the traditions grapple with. And largely the answer tends to be, we should treat each other well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we need to convert everybody or everybody needs to agree with us, but like, let's at least start with, we should treat each other well.
Let's be kind.
Do unto others,
Right.
as you would have them do unto us, right?
Yeah. So Tim, do you want to start sharing that statement then?
Sure. Something we've been working on over the last few weeks. As we approach the holy days of several religious communities in our area, Interfaith Broome County takes this time to express our moral outrage at the way Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE, is functioning in our communities. Interfaith Broome County is a multi-faith group of religious leaders working to build mutual trust and respect among local people from different religious traditions through interfaith conversation and education. Two very important holidays are coming for a significant number of religious people in Broome County: Passover for Jews, Easter for Christians. Both holidays reveal messages of liberation. The heart of the Passover message is found in Exodus 23, verse 10, quoting, "You shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, as you were strangers in the land of Egypt." This is a profound message of liberation, call to resist oppression. The heart of the Easter message is found in the moment shared in the Gospels when the stone is rolled away and the resurrection is revealed. This is a message of liberation, of new life from the obstruction of sin and injustice. Countless times in Jesus' ministry, he teaches us to treat the stranger and the vulnerable among us with dignity and justice.
Our statement continues. ICE is terrorizing our communities. There is a pervasive fear crippling the morale of the people. ICE must stop their oppressive and dehumanizing tactics. Our various traditions call us to work for compassion and mercy, to resist evil, and to protect the vulnerable. As many people of faith enter the holiest of seasons, we are called to recommit ourselves to the deep values of love for our neighbors and justice for all people. We, as faith leaders, acknowledge the pain, polarization, and violence that wound our society and communities. We grieve divisions that fracture families and communities. The God who brought Israel through the Red Sea and who raised Jesus from the dead is still at work in history and summoning us to repair what is broken. As we are reminded by the prophet Isaiah that we are called to be repairers of the breach, to restore the moral and spiritual order so that our foundations in our nation can serve the common good for all people. We commit ourselves to deepened friendship, honest dialogue, and shared action for the common good. May the memory of liberation and the promise of resurrection inspire us to become people of hope, living with a faith that overcomes all fear.
So what are some of the key takeaways that you would like people to take from that statement? Why is it important for the interfaith community to release something like that?
Well, from what I take from that and what I look at is that we're in a difficult time. I mean, and what's ahead of us is uncertain, and it's going to be challenging. And I just think this time of our faith celebrations to empower us to face the challenges. And as mentioned in the statement, to recommit ourselves to the work of justice, to work of liberation, and not to have fear, to have faith over fear, because there's a lot of fear out there in the country and worldwide. And we could be paralyzed by that fear. And I think hopefully these days frees us, liberates us from fear to real faith and justice.
One of the saddest things that I've encountered recently, I was talking with a woman who's from Jamaica. Her family is from Jamaica, and so she's an immigrant, has legal papers and all the rest of that kind of thing. But she was afraid for her son, who is a high school student, and making him bring his passport with him wherever he goes. So he has that proof that he is an American citizen. So that and so he has to keep it in his pocket. She's constantly calling him, trying to figure out whether he's been taken or not. And for many, especially people from the emerging immigrant communities, they're terrified. Right. It's not just the people that are illegal immigrants that are terrified. They're all terrified because they're indiscriminately picking up people, and we don't see that. Those of us who have white skin, and I'll claim that myself, in spite of the fact that I don't look white half the time because I get really dark. But it's like one of those things that that we claim we don't see, because we come from the right culture, the right side of history, what we consider the right side of history, and all the rest of that kind of thing. But we don't live with that fear, do we, Douglas?
Well, I think it's important for us to have a perspective beyond ourselves, and that's why I'm very supportive of a multi-faith and interfaith perspective to share a way forward, because this fear is very much born out of an isolationist empire perspective. And Passover and Easter are direct rebukes of empire. And I think it's so easy for people to just have pastoral, flowers and lilies, and it's sunshine, and life is going to be okay, kind of a perspective. But Jesus never, right? That wasn't Passover story was not about like, let's go on vacation. No, this is serious stuff, and I think it's worthy of our messages being received in this current context, and allow that faith to really impact how we look at the world.
One of those challenges, scriptures, so the call of Moses, they call of Moses, and right after, God says, I see the suffering of my people. And it wasn't just a call, a nice flowery call or something of privilege. Right away, God sees the suffering of the people and pushing Moses out to do something. That's what we're being called.
And bringing up Marcus Borg and the pageantry that was going on at that time, you have two entries into Jerusalem, and you have two understandings of what kingship looks like and what it means to be king. You have one ending up at the cross, the other one ending up at the temple, the court or wherever it was that Pilate was. But at the end, Jesus is resurrected. Where is Pilate?
Yeah, right.
And within that schematic, Pilate is still dead. But Jesus is alive, and so it changes. In a word, it changes everything, right?
Right.
It means that nothing is safe. Like all the things that we think of as being stead and stayed and permanent, they all have a way of being resurrected and being brought into hope, right? So my guests today have been Douglas Taylor and Tim Taugher. We've talked through Easter, Passover, and the celebrations of those holidays, as well as the interfaith statement on ICE. Thank you for being on Encounter today.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you back.
It's wonderful to be back and to be able to talk about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for all of you, I pray that you would all have a great Easter, great celebration. Be with your families. Enjoy the high holy day, and may all of you be kind and generous to each other. Have a great day.